Okay, so now we're going to continue by creating a navigation bar and adding some links and styling our links because that's kind of really important. So in the end, we're probably going to make this a jump page, but for now I'm going to show you the basics of how to add regular links. So the first place I'm going to add a link is down here in the footer. And the reason I'm going to do that is because we can say that maybe this will go to my personal site. So all I have to do to add a link to text, it's really easy, is to grab whatever it is I want to link. So just highlight the text. And then down here in link, I can do a couple different things. So one of them is to grab this item, this point to file, it's called a pick whip, and highlight it over to a page I want it to go to. Now this site's only one page, so that's not going to do anything. So I'm going to let go of my pick whip. The other option is the same thing, to browse for a file. So if in my, it's got to be in the root folder, but let's say I had a PDF resume that I wanted it to go to, I could grab that file and it will open a new folder. And you had a question?
I just can't see the bottom because everything's in the way. Can you like make your, can you make it smaller so that it comes up higher on the page? Do you know what I mean?
Right here?
Yeah, just up a little bit more. I still can't see the bottom of the screen.
Down here? You don't need to see any of that.
I thought that's what you were clicking on.
No, I'm clicking right here. Right there. Okay, so that's going to be part of the video now. Oh no, okay, anyway. So anyway, she was asking why she couldn't see part of this. What I'm clicking right here is the pick whip. It's this little device right there. So then I can click the add to file and I can go select a file to link it to as well. So if I wanted it to open a PDF resume or something, it'll be right there. So that's fine. So then the other option is to write in the link here. So I can easily go http://www.daniellefeliciano.com. And now it's really important when you do the link that you add this part. If you do not add that, it's not going to work. But if you're unsure, you can always open your browser and go to the site itself. So we'll just link it to my site. I got to log in here. Once I'm logged in, I can just grab this site link and it will highlight everything. And once I grab this, if I come back in a Dreamweaver and paste it, it should paste in that HTTP link for me. So you can see it did drop that in when I pasted it. Once that's done, you can see that this changes. I no longer have my H1 tag on this. The H1 tag is there, but it gets overridden by the A tag, which is the link tag, which can be grabbed right here. So A link should be somewhere right there. A link, I can change that here. Now, if I want to change the color of my links, I can do that. I could add a whole nother link style if I wanted to, but for the purpose of this, I'm just going to change it so it's similar, and we'll come back and deal with that later if that becomes a problem. So once that's done, I'm going to save it, save my CSS, and I'm going to preview in Firefox here. So now I have my link style with my hovers, and it's going to open this page. However, something happened that I didn't want to happen. It went over top of the site, and to get back to the site, I have to go back. I want this to open in a new tab, and the way I do that is I'm going to close these, is I come back down to my link here, and I grab that, and over here in Target, I select New, and that will create it new, or I believe blank will create a new tab or a new window so that I don't navigate away from my site. So I'm going to save that, come back to preview, hit save, and it's going to pop up any second now. There we go. And now when I click it, it should open it in a new tab so I don't lose the viewer of to my site. And that's important. So you want to make sure that that opens in a new tab. So that is done with that. So now if we want to add navigation, that's a whole nother animal. So let's talk about adding some navigation to our site. So if I want to add in a nice section for nav the way I do here, I need to create an object in that div, the header div, and have it drop down to the bottom. So let's create a table, because I think a table will be a little easier because it'll have cells in here that I can put these 3 items. So instead of creating 3 divs and trying to get them and floating them around, which I could do, I'm going to try and create one div with a table in it and make it a little simpler. So I'm going to come back to my source code. I'm going to scroll to the top. I'm going to see if I can zoom out just a little. I'm going to click in my header, and we can see I'm inside the header right there. So I'm going to click in the header, and I'm going to go back to Insert Div. So Insert Layout Objects Div Tag. This one at class, I'm going to write a new CSS rule, but I'm going to call this navigation. I'm going to create a new CSS rule called, class rule called navigation. I'm going to click OK. And I'm not sure about a lot of the things I want to do with it, but I do know the size. So I'm going to set the box width to 1,000, and I'm going to set the height to 60 because I know that matches my InDesign document. Likewise, I'm going to give it a background color just for now so I can see where it is. I can take this off later. So I'm going to make it blue just so I know that it's there. Then I'm going to click OK. I've got that set, and then OK, and it will drop in that item. Now, we'll notice the first thing that's wrong with it is that it's way up here at the top. It's not sitting down at the bottom. So there's a couple ways I could change that. I could add margin to this box, like it's basically like a bumper to the top of it to push it down to the bottom, or I could add padding to the header to cause it to push down to the bottom. Now, either way will work pretty much the same, and I'll show both. So if I come to my header rule and I go find that, it should be somewhere around here. Kind of hard. There we go. Keep passing it. Okay, so there's header rule. So if I come to the header rule and edit the rule here, and then go to box, uncheck same for all padding, and then add top padding, I can kind of do the math. So if this box is 260 pixels tall, which I can see right here, and this is 60, if I add 200 padding to the top, it should push that down. But something happens that I don't expect. And it's simply that by adding the 200, it pushes the box all the way open. So now the box is actually 460 pixels tall. So I can adjust that by taking this off, or I can do it a different way, which I'll show. So if I do it this way and then hit apply, it will add back up to 260, and it'll keep that navigation down at the bottom. I don't want to do it that way, so let's do it a different way. So I'm going to set the height back to 260, and I'm going to take off the padding entirely and click OK. So now we should be kind of back to where we started, unless it's, oh, nope, still there. So let's take the height back to 260 and take the padding entirely off. So I'm just going to delete that part of the rule right there. Now instead, I can grab my actual navigation ID, which is right here, div class navigation ID navigation, go find its rule, which should be somewhere around the bottom, but if we can't find it, we'll look for it. All right. So let's go to navigation. There we go. So there's my navigation rule. And instead, I could add margin to this one. So padding is on the inside of the box, which is why it worked for the container header. Now this is margin. So I'm going to go back to box. This time I'm going to go to margin, top, and I'm going to put 200. And let's see how that works. So that pushes it down without affecting the inner box. We can see that this little grayed out area with this little line through it is the bumper shape that pushes that object down. Now I'm going to do it that way. Either way would have worked. But just be aware when you add padding to a box, it makes the size bigger. So it's going to change the way that fits. So now that I have this nice this box position exactly where I want it, really easy to do. Learning the padding and the margin is kind of the most important part. If you play with those and you get those right, you get your sizes and your margin and your padding right, you can kind of build any site you want, and it will work really easily. So now I'm going to add a table inside here. I'm going to highlight the text and I'm going to delete it because I don't want any text. And I'm going to go to Insert, and then we can see that I can hit Table. So, Table. Now this works just kind of as you would expect. It kind of has a sort of Microsoft Word throwback vibe where we can add all of these different sort of elements to it. So I want it to have 3 columns and 1 row. So that way it'll be 1 row long with 3 columns for the 3 sections. I can create a table width here. So, and I might actually set this to probably, I believe this padding kind of works the same way. Let's set it to like 600. And let's set the border thickness to 0 because I don't want a border, or I can probably just delete that and not have a border. And then I can add cell padding and cell spacing. These are the same as padding and margin. They're the same concept there. So in this case, I want to add cell padding at maybe, I don't want to add any cell padding. Instead, I want to add a little bit of cell spacing. And the cell spacing I'm going to set to 15, just so we can take a look at it. And then I'm going to click OK. So there we go. I have dropped in a table, and we can see that the table width is 600, the cell spacing is 15, and then I have a variety of different table cells. Now, this may sometimes it'll push open the box a little bit and you'll have to make your adjustments to the size to get it to fit so it doesn't distort anything. But there we go. So now I have these 3 table cells and I can add the words in that I need for my navigation. So if I come back to this, I can see that it's welcome, things to see, and booking. So I'm going to write that in. Welcome, things to see, and booking. And now when I typed those in, you can see that they changed size and they kind of like went all over the place when I did that. The reason is because they don't have widths set. So they're just going to add space to whatever's inside and kind of change sizes, but it makes them not centered. So I can select them and I can give them widths by clicking the cell, so clicking the table cell right here or right there, you can see it's highlighted, and giving it a width. So if I give the width 300 to it, it will lock itself open at 300. I can do the same here, width 300 and width 300. Now I may have to adjust the size of my actual table to get that to actually be accurate. So 333 does not equal 600, it equals something closer to 900. So let's type in 900, refresh, and there we go. Now I have this sort of table cell ready to go. So a couple problems that I'm seeing here are, one, that the type is not centered. I can easily fix that in my table by coming down to the table settings, which are all right here, hitting horizontal center, and it will center the type. So you got to do that for each cell, center, and center. So now they're nicely centered. Now the last thing I probably want to do is give this table centering inside, or get this table at least to center inside of the div that it's in. Now in this case, it will probably be easier to add padding to the left to push it over than to add margin to this box. So I'm going to do it the opposite way this time. I'm going to come to the navigation. I'm going to find it over here in my rule. As you can see, it's selected based on the fact that the blue shows up. This is why I color things. And I'm going to add some padding to the left and see how that looks. So I'm going to go to box, uncheck same for all, padding left. If this box is 1,000 wide and my table's 900, I can see that there's 100 pixels left, and I'll add 50 to the left. I'll hit apply, and we'll take a look at that. I'll click OK. I'm going to save everything, and then I'm going to go into Preview in Firefox to take a look. So the same problem we had before reoccurred. Because I added 50 without taking 50 off the width, it pushed it open. So we could correct that, but other than that, everything is right other than the fact that I spelled booking incorrectly. So let's fix that. Booking. Come back to our div here. I managed to grab it, set the width to 950. Because once I add that 50 padding in, it'll fit. Save it all again, and preview in Firefox, and we should have solved the problem. So there we go. So now I have my navigation neat and orderly below. So it looks like it moved to the top and that we have some issues with our padding. So we're going to try and fix that now. So if I hit Command R and refresh, I don't see a solution here. So let's go back and let's fix that. So this is one of the problems that you will have sometimes when you have the preview here. It doesn't always look like it does in the box. So there's a couple different ways I can fix this. I can add the image in above it and push it down that way, or I can change the way that the padding and the margin works. So let's go back and do it the opposite way and see if that solves it. So this is the truth of web design. It's all troubleshooting. So when I push this down, because it didn't open the div properly, I may go back and do it the other way. So in this case, I will leave all of this correct. This looks good. I'll take off the margin top, however. Let's preview what happens when I do that. So now it's not pushing it down all the way, but we can see it's not sitting where I want. So let's go back and add it as padding to the opening div and see if that solves the problem. Sometimes you have to do it one way or the other way depending on how it's functioning. So let's go back and find the box that this is in, which is called header. So let's see if we can click it. It's really hard to click. So let's go see if we can find it instead right there, header. So if we grab our header and instead we go find it here, header, where are you? Okay. There we go. So we grab our header rule. We can see our headers right here. We got our rule. Let's go back and do it the way we did before. So instead of height 260, we set the height to 60 and we add 200 padding. Let's try that. So edit rule, set that to 60, set the padding at 200 top, apply, click OK, hit save, save the CSS, preview, Firefox. It's going to ask me to save the files because it didn't save this one. Click save. And there. So that time it did work. So sometimes when one way doesn't work, try doing it the other way. So if adding margin causes the boxes to push open, try adding padding to the boxes inside instead. So there we go. So now we have our navigation neatly, orderly, and now the last thing to do is to add links to that. So I can grab these and I can give them a link. Now we're going to add anchor links later, so we're going to change these links. But for now, I can just add a placeholder link. So I'm going to put http:// and I'm just going to send these all to Google just so we have the look we're looking for. I'm going to come back in later in a different tutorial and we are going to adjust that so that we can actually get a jump link to the different sections. But we'll fix that in a moment. That's called an anchor tag. So http:// www.google.com. And then the same thing here, grab that one, drop that in on the links. So now these kind of don't look as good with this gray color. So we have the gray color down here that looks good, but not up here. So we have a couple options. We can change the link style altogether and try and pick something that works for both, or we can create a new link style. Now in this case, I think it's going to be a little more complicated to create a new link style. So you can create a B-link style and just add that as the style to it. But I'm going to just change the A-link style again, and I'm going to pick something that will look better for both. So let's try out, let's see if white looks okay. So I think white looks okay on both, so we'll just do white for now. Now, once again, I can add a heading tag to this, and it will adjust it a little bit. The colors are now part of the link, but if I click the heading tag, it will make them bigger. But it did push open this tab a little bit, so it kind of changed the cell height here. So I may need to adjust the cell height to get these to fit. This is all the troubleshooting you're going to have to do when you deal with this, like getting everything to fit properly. You can see that my cell spacing is what's causing this to push open. So if I lower my cell spacing a little bit to maybe 10, it kind of squeezes back in. I can hit 8 and see how that looks. Looks like I didn't grab it. Grab those cells, and I can adjust that right back here as well in the source code. So if you don't see it there, I can change my cell spacing there as well as right there. You can see that pops up for properties. So let's click 8. It's going to adjust. That kind of fits a little better. I can turn it off entirely because I don't really need the cell spacing anymore, and I can just delete cell spacing as well. So changing the padding and the margin are the hardest parts of designing the site and the things you're going to have to change the most. They're going to alter a lot. Different things are going to happen. I'm going to adjust my height here really quick. My height to 60 and see how that works. Height to 60 on that. And then height to 60 on this one. So now they should fit okay. If they're a little shifted, we can adjust that by changing the size a little bit less. So let's make it like 55. Select them. 55. They all got to change before they'll move because one of them is larger. 55. 55. So those dropped in. I got the sizes right there. Now let's preview Firefox. Save. And there we go. So we have that. I can add some padding into these to get them to shift. That's one of those things where this looks different than this. The reason that these are purple is because these links have already been visited before, so that now they're going to look a little different. So we can see when I hit refresh that they're back to where they're supposed to be. So that is how to add links. We're going to